Present Yobe North. Mr. President, let me commend our President of the Federal Republic for presenting this very important budget estimate. And in my contribution, I would like to start by quoting one of his statements. And I quote, Mr. President yesterday said, security is the foundation of all progress. And I agree with him completely. Any other thing could easily fall in place when we are secured. Mr. President, defense and security is getting 4.91 trillion naira. To my mind, this is not even enough. But given the paucity of funds that we face, we can say there is a significant improvement over what we had for 2024. Mr. President, the Committee on Defense went on oversight to Kaduna last month, and we visited DICON, the Defense Industries Corporation of Nigeria. Distinguished colleagues, DICON was established in 1964, 60 years today. But its contemporaries in Brazil, in Pakistan, today can produce fighter jets. DICON is still struggling to manufacture bullets. I believe that when Mr. President says that we are going to deploy technology and other technical and digital means of fighting insecurity, then DICON should be at the center of it. Mr. President, we should be able to make it possible for DICON to produce the kind of equipment, machinery and platforms that we need in this country. And we have the people who can do that. We have very well-trained technicians and technologists. Mr. President, I believe that Nigeria has suffered enough in the hands of countries where we wanted to import our platforms or our aircrafts. We recall that in the last administration, Nigeria paid for about 12 fighter jets from a certain country. And we paid heavily. But alas, when those aircrafts were finally imported to Nigeria, we were not given every aspect of what we needed to use them to fight insecurity in Nigeria. So we are halfway. The only way to go is to have our own DICON functioning. Finally, Mr. President, because it says 2 minutes, we must commend our armed forces, but we must continue to demand for better and improved performance. And with this kind of funding, I think what we need to do is to keep our eyes on the ball. That is to say that we ask for accountability. We insist on transparency. Thank you very much, Mr. President, for the privilege.
You appreciate Mr. President for his budget presentation yesterday and the style in which it was delivered, smoothly, effortlessly, very eloquently, confirming that he knew exactly what he was presenting to us. And I think that is worth commendation in itself. Mr. President, like others have said, when I was in the trade unions, we used to question why government should devote so much resources to defense at the expense of education, healthcare, infrastructure. But over the past couple of years, given all that we have faced as a nation with regards to insecurity, I am now convinced, more than ever before, that none of those other important sectors can be safe unless we have security. And therefore, like all those who have spoken before me have said, I can't question why defense should have a lion's share of the budget. But the lessons we have learned since we assumed duties here is that budgetary provisions alone will not translate to the kind of outcome Mr. President spoke to, namely that our defense policies or management of our defense procurement should be guided in a way as to lay more emphasis on technology and have a much more smart, robust, and effective defense system. This will require that our defense committee, which happily is chaired by the immediate past Senate President, that our defense people need to be refocused. Even the issue of the defense, because I live in Kaduna, we find at Daikon, at a point Daikon was producing furnitures. And in Kaduna, it was a joke of the town that people who, an institution set up to manufacture arms, at the same time a similar institution was set up in Brazil. Why Brazil are now manufacturing even jets, defense industries, Kaduna was producing furnitures. I'm not sure exactly what they are doing now. But just to say that my experience has taught me that throwing money at people without ensuring that they use the money strictly for the purpose for which it was appropriated can always lead to what I call goal displacement, replacing popular goal with what is convenient to those who are charged with the responsibility of managing resources that are appropriated for them. I also believe that the right emphasis was placed on health, on education, etc. I don't think any of us here will question those, because over the past 1 year, I can't count how many universities and how many colleges of education or how many technical skill acquisition we have set up. All of those will require resources to fund if they are signed into law. The key issue, Mr. President, that I think our Senate, particularly with reference to our Finance Committee, are chaired by Sani and Abiru and others, I want your attention. This time around, the Senate, through your committees, must ensure that the budget is based on 1,500 naira to the dollar. Everything must be done to ensure that the naira is protected. The purchasing power parity of the naira today, in my view, is grossly undervalued. The naira can buy in Nigeria much more than a dollar can buy in US. And to remove speculation from our economy, leading to hyperinflation, Nigeria needs to be certain that nothing will make the naira depreciate any further. That will require that the Senate committees, as appropriate, working with CBN, monetary authorities, and the fiscal authorities, must guide jealously this figure. We should take them as a decree, just to emphasize my concern about it, that nothing should make the dollar fluctuate further, so that there will be price stability. The target of Mr. President, which he read to us and many of us clamped, was that from current level of inflation that is averaging around 30%, that the target is to cut it down to 15%. What that means is to protect and even enhance our real living standard. Now, to achieve 15% inflation, we require that the exchange rate remains stable as a precondition for general price stability in the economy. The inflation we have faced is not a result of more money chasing few goods, or what the economists call demand pull. The inflation we have faced is the result of cost push. Central to that cost push is exchange rate. That is why we can't speak too much about the need to ensure that this figure in the budget is realized throughout the year. Lastly, I'm happy with the President's emphasis on returning the manufacturing sector, because all of us here are under pressure from young men and the not so young for jobs. Those jobs will not be created by bankers or by banks. They will be created by the civil service. They will be created by conditional cash transfer. They can only be created by the manufacturing sector. When we come to the details, we will see through the Ministry of Industries what new initiatives are put in place to ensure that the manufacturing sector gradually return back so that our young people can get jobs, and it will contribute to ensuring peace and security in our respective constituencies. Thank you very much, Mr. President, for allowing me to speak for 1 minute 56 seconds. Thank you, sir.
In commenting on the 2025 budget, I would like to align myself with our colleagues in thanking President of Federal Republic of Nigeria for considering defense as an important area. If we do not keep ourselves peacefully, I don't see how we can even do anything in Nigeria. In putting defense and security as a top priority, it means we will do a lot to go back to agriculture. Because once we go to agriculture, I would like to see where this budget will address some issue and put stimulus into banks like Bank of Agriculture, the Bank of Industry, so that we can put stimulus back to the economy. If there is no much stimulus in the economy, what we are preaching about in shadowing down the dollar or keeping the dollar lower is not going to happen. We must do more on agriculture, where exports production will be key to what we are going to be looking at 2025. And in praising Mr. President of the Republic, we have to pay more attention to the manufacturers. One of my colleagues, either Senator Shemole, just said that, because in the manufacturing sector, capacity utilization is down. There is no stimulus in any sector of this sector. So, Mr. President, I'm appealing to you, President of Senate, to see how you can redirect some issues in this budget that will favor the manufacturers and all the rest of them by supporting Bank of Industry very well and supporting the other developmental banks that are within the region, so that people can go back to manufacturing, people can go back to production. Because without production, we are not going to do much as a country. I also want to use the opportunity to appeal to you, what my colleague said, Senator Abubakar Sani Bello. When you go to our embassies, Mr. President have done very well in the last few months in making new friends for Nigeria and in making Nigeria to be center of world leaders to visit us. But Mr. President, we need to address the issue of our consulates, our embassies, and all the rest of them. They are in a very poor condition. These embassies need rehabilitation, and Mr. President needs to, as a matter of fact, put his representative, like he just went to Brazil. Your time is up, Senator Ojikalo. He just went to Brazil. He has nobody to continue what he has done. We need to put the ambassadors and way finance and all the rest of them for them. So, Mr. President. Time is up, Senator Abbas. You have the floor. Thank you very much. I have to batch what you said.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, I'm Senator Aminu Abbas,